One Piece, one of the most iconic franchises with a host of powerful characters, with some of these characters having a case for being the strongest, which begs the question, who is the strongest? For this video, I'll be going over the candidates who I believe have the best case for being the strongest, and seeing who to win if they all fought each other. Just a disclaimer, I'll be going off of characters, pirates and marines alike, that have feats and statements I can go off of. So unfortunately, this packs frauds like Emu, the Gorosei, and thankfully Figerland from this discussion. So yeah, if you want more One Piece videos, let me know down in the comment section below. Drop a like, subscribe, let's get into it. We're looking at Shanks' case for being the strongest. I gotta say he has one of the stronger cases. Outside of his bounty and him being a Yonko, he was narratively implied and outright shown to be evenly matched with Whitebeard on his meds, who was stated by Marco to be way faster and stronger than his Marineford counterpart that was having a heart attack and struggling to use his Haki. With Whitebeard having statements that just outright call him the strongest pirate, and with Shanks having feats and statements that scale him to Whitebeard, this would also put Shanks at the top or very least near it. This would also obviously place Shanks over the likes of the admirals due to the fact that a literal corpse of Whitebeard was outright bodying Akainu, and the fact that he literally speed blitzed Kizaru in film Red, which was stated to be an accurate portrayal of the character's abilities. Furthermore, Shanks was able to one-shot Kid, who was able to go blow for blow against Big Mom and Kaido, and he would also scale over King of Hell Zoro, who showcased power comparable to Odin, being able to damage Kaido. Meaning that with the Divine Departure, Shanks could easily damage Kaido. Speaking of Kaido, Shanks was able to stop Kaido from coming to Marineford, with there being statements that apply that him stopping Kaido was more a show of strength than his diplomacy. We all know Shanks has advanced Conqueror's Haki and Future Sight, with this Haki being so powerful he earned his title as the Observation Killer. Moving on to Mihawk, some of you may see this as controversial, but it's a fact. Mihawk has many, and I mean many statements that outright call him the world's strongest swordsman. You see this picture, right? You see what he's holding in his hand? That's a sword, and in every instance of Shanks fighting, we see him using this sword and even using named attacks. Shanks is a swordsman, and by proxy, Mihawk would be stronger than Shanks. A huge misconception within the One Piece community is that Shanks is some kind of Haki man and Mihawk can just swing his sword harder with more finesse, but that's just not the case. As shown many times in the series, your prowess and understanding of Haki coincides with your strength as a swordsman. It's literally stated by Mihawk that a black blade is only obtained by imbuing Haki into the blade, and it's no coincidence that Mihawk and Ryuma are the only characters who have a permanent black blade. We all know that Yoru is the strongest blade in all of One Piece, which means that Mihawk has to be near the top of the verse when it comes to his armament Haki. When looking at if Mihawk has Conqueror's Haki or Advanced Conqueror's Haki, all I have to say to that is, what? We all know Zoro hasn't surpassed Mihawk yet, and he literally has Advanced Conqueror's Haki. With characters like Zoro and even Yamato having Advanced Conquerors, and with it literally being a necessity at this point in the story, I have no doubt in my mind that Mihawk has it. He was a rival to Shanks, and to this day he's still held in the same regard as Shanks. When looking at the elephant in the room, that being his performance in the Paramount War, to the untrained eye it may seem that Mihawk was being pressed and has fraudulent showings, but all you have to do is literally watch or read the series. Mihawk was literally holding back and using unnamed attacks throughout the entire war, and the reason why people were blocking his attacks is due to the breadth of all things, which only cuts things he wants to cut. So no, he's not a fraud. Next up, we have the hero of the Marines in Garp, formerly known as an Akainu victim. When comparing Garp to the other geezers of the verse, that being the late Whitebeard, Rayleigh, and Sengoku, Garp has been shown not to have declined as much as Whitebeard, and even Rayleigh did. Garp was also an equal to Roger at his peak, with Roger stating that he and Garp nearly killed each other on many separate occasions. Meaning that since Garp isn't plagued by the same physical ailments that nerfed Whitebeard, I find it very likely that Garp was stronger than old Whitebeard, with him even having statements that outright call him the strongest old man. Garp was able to casually one-shot Marco, with this same Marco being able to press and outright tag admirals such as Aokiji and Kizaru, which would place Garp over characters like the Admirals and even Rayleigh, who was gasping for air while fighting Kizaru. And after his fight against Aokiji, we all know that Garp has Conquerors and Advanced Conqueror's Haki, with Garp not only having one of the greatest showings of Conqueror's Haki in the entire series with his Galaxy Impact, but also having statements that scale him at least to or over old Whitebeard at 100%. It's also stated that Garp can take down any active threat within the New World, which pretty much means that Garp can take on the Yonko level characters such as Kaido, Shanks, and Mihawk. Blackbeard has a particularly unique case for being the strongest. While he may not seem that impressive and even may seem fraudulent in certain instances, he still scarred Shanks, and while we don't know what necessarily happened or if Shanks was even a Yonko during that encounter, he still had legendary battles with the likes of Mihawk and was still definitely a powerhouse at this point. It also wouldn't narratively make sense if Shanks warned Whitebeard about Teach if he wasn't a threat, with Shanks himself stating that he didn't get his scar due to being off guard. We know how impressive Shanks' Haki is, and this means that Blackbeard's Haki isn't as suspect as it may seem. After stealing Whitebeard's fruit, Blackbeard was able to replicate some of Whitebeard's feats, with him being able to split the seas and briefly clash with Sengoku. Blackbeard also has the pound for pound strongest Paramecia double fruit in the Quake fruit, and the strongest Logia in the Darkness fruit. And he's also stated to probably win against Rayleigh, well, by Rayleigh himself. He would also scale to his contemporaries, with him having multiple statements that outright call him the current strongest, and even going so far as to asking if he can be beaten. With all of their scaling out of the way, this begs the question, who would win? All 4 of these characters are held to the highest regard and have statements that can put them at the top. This is honestly so close that you can literally just pick who you like out of these 4 to be the strongest, and I wouldn't necessarily have a problem. But honestly, if you didn't notice already, one of these characters are clearly inferior to the rest, that being Blackbeard. While he does have an argument for being the pound for pound hardest hitter here, he's just severely lacking in the Haki department compared to the rest of the characters on this list. Even if we assume he has Conquerors, we just don't know if he has Conquerors coding or future sight, and I'd be making too many assumptions to scale his Haki to characters like Shanks. Also, his darkness fruit wouldn't play too much of a role in this fight, since everyone here doesn't even have a devil fruit. But matching up Shanks and Mihawk, you really have to split hairs when coming to a conclusion. But unfortunately for Shanks, Mihawk is stated to be the strongest swordsman in the world, and Shanks is a swordsman. And as I said prior in this video, Haki and swordsmanship at the highest level is essentially a marriage. And as established earlier, Mihawk's Haki would be on Shanks' level. Shanks could negate Mihawk's observation, which would give him an advantage in a fight, but Mihawk is still stronger. Honestly, when determining who's the strongest between the two, it really depends on what you value more. Mihawk has his statements and Shanks has the better showings for now. But it honestly doesn't matter because these two are honestly just Garp victims. Shanks was no stronger than an old, dried out, dying Whitebeard on an IV, and this would also apply to Mihawk. Garp also has statements that can scale him over an old Whitebeard, which is something Mihawk and Shanks lack. Even when accounting for him being weakened, he has the statements, the feats, the experience, and the confidence that he would win against any of the Yonko and their crew, making him the strongest man in the world. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to drop a comment on who you think would win. Drop a like, subscribe. This is Destro, and I'm out.